I think the repetition really got to me, and I was like, do I want to be grinding Don Juan for the next like X years of my life till I win a job?
And then
And
if you
sure
win the
enough, think
job, you
so.
can play Don Juan.
Yeah, and I was like, do I really want to
Right.
play Don Juan? Not really, you know?
Today, we have our first string victim on the podcast. He earned his bachelor's degree in violin performance from the Oberlin Conservatory of Music, and he also has an advanced music studies certificate from Carnegie Mellon University. He studied at festivals such as Orford, Meadowmount, and ARIA International Summer Academy, and has done a lot of chamber music, including the trio where we met this past winter, which was a flute, viola, and bass trio. He just finished his first year here at Beanin with his master's degree, but is now pivoting away from violin, likely into business, maybe going to Kellogg. We'll talk about it. I was surprised and impressed when I was reading his resume that he was a marketing and business development intern at Nona Biosciences, very fancy, and also founded a bubble tea shop at Oberlin College and was awarded the Student Entrepreneurship Grant for this. So now, to be interrogated about the double life that he hid from me, Sam, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Awesome. Before we get into it, your resume is very impressive, but I feel like the audience should know, and they would know in a few seconds, you are a certified silly goose. Would you say this is accurate?
A certified silly goose. I've
I
never
would say
done
so.
anything that formal about my silliness, but I think that's quite accurate.
Well, I don't think silliness and formal goes together.
That's very true. A certified silly goose.
I would say so.
I think Leslie Grimm would agree with you.
I think so. Our chamber conductor, but she's kind of a silly goose
She's
too.
a bit silly herself.
Nothing wrong with that.
It's like all the faculty members that I know are also a little bit silly. I feel like I can be a bit silly with as well. You know,
Yeah.
And that's always a good vibe to have.
And I feel like with you, if it's an act, I'm fooled by it, that you kind of like seem like you're having a good time all the time. Or if everything's falling apart, it still feels like I'm in a comedy movie when I'm with you. Like you're enjoying the comedy that's happening too. How do you do that?
I try my best to keep things lighthearted and to not make things too serious. Obviously, there are situations where serious is needed, but for the most part, in a chamber rehearsal, in a coaching, especially if I know the people that I'm with are like other friends and we can joke around, we can have fun, I always opt for that. I think it's better for morale, it's better for creativity. I think when things get too serious or a little bit stressed, it kind of limits how people think, and I don't think that's helpful for for music.
Mm-hmm. Did you like group projects when you were a kid?
When I was a
I wanted to
kid,
die
no.
in every
I
group
hated
project.
them, but because like when I was up until high school, when we had a group project, I was the one that did all the work.
Well, duh.
Because of course,
Welcome to
all
being
the
at Northwestern Student. You're all the kids who did all the work.
yeah, because all the other kids were incompetent. They couldn't
Yeah.
do the work properly.
Mhm.
So
And if you
I
don't get a
hated
good
group
grade,
projects.
you get like
Exactly. Yeah, my parents were like, "What's wrong with you? You got like a B or a C? How would you do that?" So.
I remember I had Asian friends in high school and stuff, so I'm allowed to say this stuff. You can let me know if I'm not. But they had a scale. It was like A is acceptable, B, what is it?
Below average.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, C. I forget.
D was like don't come home.
Yeah.
I don't remember what F was. Was it like that?
Probably. Yeah, I think
Okay.
so. I can't remember what C was either.
C.
B below
Something
average.
bad.
Something bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was pretty much the case. I was growing up, my parents, they actually weren't your traditional Asian parents in the sense that they didn't like get really mad if we got a bad grade. They expected us to get, to be straight A students, and for the most part we were. It wasn't until like high school that I started, focusing more on music, so I didn't pay as much attention to my studies. But yeah, they raised me and my brother very differently than I think a lot of other Asian parents. They didn't want us to be the like quiet, submissive, obedient kid. A lot of Asian parents want that. They were like, say what you want to say. Don't let anyone push you around. Be assertive. So I think that was very different than most of my Asian peers.
That is really interesting. Why do you think they were different like that?
I don't know. It was mostly my mom that was like that pushed for that kind of mentality. I think it really served us both really well. Like we both went out of our way to do things outside of school that wasn't forced on us by our parents. Of course, there was music and sports and all that stuff, but we did a lot of stuff on our own. And they also didn't like to attend. Like a big thing for Chinese immigrants is having these Chinese parties where you just have the other immigrants in your area come over, and it's kind of just like a way for Chinese parents to brag about their kids. And my parents hated that, so we stopped going to those things, and they were like, "This is a waste of time."
Oh, but everyone loves a good brag.
Everyone loves to go to brag, and they could brag about us for sure, but they didn't enjoy that kind of gathering.
Okay, so your parents didn't put that pressure on you, but it seems like at some point you kind of put that pressure on yourself.
I mean, even when I was younger, I was the one putting it on myself. Like looking back on it, there are a few events that kind of stick out in my mind. I remember one time I was in second or third grade, like elementary school, and I think I got a B on a project, and I was so upset with myself. I was like, "Oh my god, my mom's gonna kill me. She's like got a B. Like, how could I do this?" And then she picked me up from school, and I told her I was so upset, and she was like, why do you think I'm gonna kill you if you get a B?" And I was like, I don't know. It's just I just had that. I guess I put the pressure on myself a lot. And
Hmm.
I think that that's lasted throughout my musical career as well.
Hmm. Well, that's tough in music because it's supposed to be this thing that's special and outside of something you can grade because someone can think a performance is amazing and someone else thinks it's terrible. But obviously, we as musicians, we do kind of grade our own performances. And how do you do that without ruining it for yourself?
That is something I struggled with a lot. I would say throughout my entire undergrad, even to this day, like even this last year at Beanin, music for me, like I've been trying more and more to just enjoy the performance and just enjoy performing. And sometimes I can do it. Like on my recital, I played this piece called "Sunshine Over Tashkurigan" by Chen Gong. It's a Chinese piece. It's like a mix of Chinese and Tajik like folk music, and I have so much fun when I'm playing that. And I remember I played it in class, and my teacher was like, "This is a side of you that I haven't seen before for your playing."
Mm.
But very often when I'm playing, I play a note out of tune. I play with slightly too much bow pressure. It's not exactly how I want it to speak, and then I'm like, "That's a fail." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I just failed. I failed that performance." Um, so I don't think I'm the best one to talk about how not to do that because something I've struggled with a lot. I think just realizing that you know no one is perfect. I think as I've gotten a more developed ear and I listen to professional recordings, they make mistakes too. They're not
Mhm.
perfect, and that's been really encouraging to see. Um, but just yeah, just trying to have fun, trying to enjoy yourself, realizing that especially when you're talking to an audience member, even if you think you played terribly, an audience member will come up and congratulate you, and you have to say thank you. You have to say like, "Oh, I'm so glad you enjoyed it." My old professor told me a story of a student of his that performed a piece and an audience member came up to him and was like, "I love your performance. That's my favorite piece. It was amazing." And he was like, "No, that was so bad. I messed up so much." And you could see like her spirit just like leave her body.
Uh,
So I think you have to, especially when you're talking to someone who was there at the performance, you have to always just pretend it was good, even if you don't think it was.
yeah. Our flute teacher said something similar to that. We have studio class, and it's funny that a lot of the students will play amazingly, and then they'll struggle with the bow part when when we're clapping for them. So either they'll like look kind of uncomfortable, or they'll forget to do it, and then they'll have to do it, and our teacher was like, when you don't bow, you're not appreciating the audience that they just gave you their time and their applause, and that they're saying it's good,
Yeah.
and you're saying that like I don't believe you that you thought it was good. So it's a little bit of an if you think of it as an insult to the audience, then I mean you kind of just gave them an experience and you gave them a gift. And probably like what's the most recent thing you were listening to? Doesn't have to be classical music.
Um, Beethoven Violin Concerto.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's such a classical music. But anyway, I was gonna say, well, how about like a pop? Do you ever listen to pop music?
Yeah, occasionally. I think I was hanging out with some friends. We were listening to Sabrina Carpenter.
Okay. All right. So when she sings, it's not like, ooh, that C sharp was a little flat, you know. It's totally not about that. But
Right,
when we
right.
go into our niche, we're evaluating each little tiny thing. And I liked what you said about how even professionals make mistakes. So I've been trying to get in the habit of having my tuner out more often. And I've tried to get in the habit of listening to a professional recording, like of a little excerpt, and then I'll play it and I'll go back and forth. And I'll have the tuner on unintentionally when the professional's playing. And it's kind of out of tune on some notes. And just the relief that I feel like, oh my God, and these are the greatest whatever people of all time that I
Yeah.
look up to. And that note that I'm sharp on, they're sharp on it. And like, thank goodness.
Yeah, it's like they're not perfect either. We're allowed to make mistakes.
Yeah. So that one performance at your recital where you felt like you enjoyed yourself again, do you know what was different then?
I think, well, there's a few things to it. Like that piece, I've performed a lot before. So when I was at Orford, this one summer, I played it twice in performance there. I did it for auditions, I did it for studio classes. So I'm really comfortable with the piece. I hadn't took my violin in a little while, but if you gave it to me, I'm sure I could play the piece and like from memory with piano, whatever. So the comfort is a big part of it because I know the piece so well, but also it's really fun. It's just really fun to perform. Like there's a lot of fun techniques, like some extra things that I add in, some extra like harmonics and glisses and stuff. And it's kind of like I feel like it's a bit of a game with the audience. Like I'm trying to surprise them a bit.
Oh, okay.
Um, So I think back to other performances that I really enjoy. Also, when I was at Orford, my good friend Sebastian Tai, he's also a violinist and a violist. So we would do the Halverson Passacaglia for violin and viola like every summer there, and we would do these like outreach concerts for the public. And a bit that we always did, we would plant one of our friends in the audience. Like I would start on viola, he started on violin, and after one of the like halfway through the piece, we'd have our friends start clapping, so everyone else would start clapping, and we'd be like, "No, wait, wait, wait," and then we would trade our instruments and then
Oh,
like finish the piece on each other's
oh my
instrument.
gosh.
And I think when there's like a little gimmick, or if you're playing like just a fun piece in general, it's really like it's a different story than playing like Brahms concerto or like a sonata. You know,
Hmm.
it's like there's a bit more whimsy to it that I feel, which I just personally I just don't really get when I'm playing other more serious pieces.
Do you think that it's the music itself is not enough stimulation for you? Because what I just heard is that you like putting on a show. Like
Yeah.
you like being creative and thinking out of the box. And sometimes with classical music, it's a little bit confined to what's on the page and following the rules.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's also why, like in my undergrad, I did a lot of show pieces, and I think that's part of the reason why I love doing those because it's kind of like you get to put on a show, you get to
Oh, I love show
like
pieces.
flirt a bit with the audience, just like show off a little bit, and it's
Yeah.
kind of like it's a different vibe than I'm here to play Brahms concerto, and like I will play it perfectly,
Mhm.
or like I will show you my ideas. I feel maybe it's a bit easier to be creative with like fun pieces like that.
Yeah, you definitely don't have that creativity in excerpts for orchestral auditions. It's
For
like
sure.
everybody has an opinion on it. And then what do you think? Sometimes teachers will be like, yeah, you got to play it the way it's supposed to be played, but also they're going to listen to 100 people play this. So you have to stand out. So it's like, how do you stand out and also follow the rules? It's very tricky.
I've talked to a ton of different orchestral musicians about this. Like when I was at Carnegie Mellon, my second year, I studied with both my teacher Bill Vandersloot, but also David McCarroll, who's the concertmaster of Pittsburgh Symphony. So he sat in on however many like who knows how many auditions, right? And talking to him, talking to Danny Jin from the CSO or Blair from CSO or people from Cleveland, the one thing I always get is honestly a lot of people do not play in tune with good rhythm and with good sound. And
But I want to be out of the box. I
well,
don't
I
want to
think
play into.
like for these like a lot of the times they're like for the first round at least for the very first round it's like if you can make a good impression with those three things then you're good for the second round, which I was surprised at because I thought everyone going to these auditions would have that, but surprisingly no. And then I think when you get to further rounds, the advice that I was told is you show off more with your concerto. You can take more liberties in your concerto, and then for the excerpts you say a bit closer to what's on the page.
Okay.
I don't know how what everyone else thinks, but I kind of like that idea. It makes sense. The excerpts are you want to show that you are stable, you have good rhythm, good sense of intonation and everything. But with a concerto, you can be a bit more free.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I never thought about that, but that makes a lot of sense. Like save your creativity for when you pass the prelims.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Exactly.
figured the same thing that you did, that everyone's gonna have great rhythm and so like whatever. But if it's not whatever, show that you can play
Not
in tune
true,
in the first round.
surprisingly. Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of it also is just having control of your nerves for that kind of thing. Um, it sounded like before you were saying that being comfortable with a piece is a lot important for you for being able to enjoy it. Is that because you have a little bit of nerves with performing?
I mean, who doesn't, right?
I mean, we all do, but like,
Certainly I have nerves when I perform. I think, to be honest, a lot of the pressure I'm just putting on myself. I don't like, especially for recitals, right? Recitals, they're for your friends,
mm,
right? I think when you have juries is a different story. Juries is like the teachers are there evaluating you. But when you're having a recital, your friends are there to support you. Like, I can't imagine like an enemy of mine coming to my recital just to be like, oh, look at him mess up this piece. Oh, he played that attitude. Like that's not gonna happen. Your
that
friends are
would
there
be
to
so
support you.
cool though. Like my enemies are here.
Like that'd be crazy. That'd be
Yeah.
crazy if they did that, right? So I think for recitals, it's part of the purpose is to have fun, and I struggle with that a lot. So I put a lot of pressure on myself. Being comfortable with the piece, yeah, I think is really important. So for the excerpts, like I was preparing for the Air Force audition this year, and part of that was just like obviously drilling them over and over again.
You had a
But
really elaborate way of doing this. You were telling me.
yes, I was. This is kind of just to like get more reps in and make sure I was comfortable, but also practice transitioning the pieces.
Can you
So
explain?
there were
Yeah.
there were 8 excerpts, and I went through like I basically played through all of them in every conceivable order, just so I would always have practice like going from one to the other, like just starting each one, because I didn't know which 4 they would ask for in the first round. But then like halfway through doing that, I got tired of playing them so much, so I would do like the first like 3 or 4 lines and the last 3 or 4 lines for each one, and then
Well, how long would
transition.
it have taken you to do your whole procedure?
3 hours, I think.
Yeah,
It's
that's
been a
like
while.
3 hours straight. Or,
Yeah.
oh, that's insane.
Something like that. And I was like, that's That's a lot. Let me just do like the beginnings and ends.
So this comes up again that smart people sometimes do the dumbest things.
Yeah.
I say affectionately.
Well, I don't know if I told you this story before, but when I was preparing for my first ever recital at Oberlin, my junior recital, there was one day where I had gotten food in the dining hall and I realized that they put peanuts in it without knowing. And so I had to take Benadryl. I like threw up a little bit and I was not feeling good. I thought to myself, no, my recital's in like a month. If I can run through my whole program right now, like suffering the effects of an allergic reaction,
Oh my
there's no
gosh.
way I messed up in the recital.
That's
So I went to
actually
the practice
genius
room and I
though.
did that.
That's not dumb, that's genius.
I mean, I still had to slip in the recital, but yeah, that was like my teacher was like, "What the hell were you thinking?"
That would be funny if it worked really well and it became kind of a thing for you. So like now when you're a month out, you're like, time to just overdose
I'll
on.
just take a peanut, take a Benadryl, and run
Yeah.
through.
I mean, and there's levels to this. I could think of so many other ways to just inflict pain and suffering on you. And then, yeah, if you can do it then, you can do it anyway.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, I knew a teacher who would make his students, like, when they were preparing for performance, he'd make them, like, run a lap or 2 around the building and then run through their rep because 'cause they're like, "You need to know how to play with an elevated heart rate," which
What a string privilege thing to say.
Yeah,
I could
exactly.
not breathe. Or I could, but it would be tricky.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but for chamber music, because I saw a lot of chamber music in your background, is that a place where you can also be comfortable, kind of like a recital? Because I don't know, I imagine orchestra. There's so many violins that it can. Does it get kind of boring when it's like you're in the section and chamber's a little more fun?
For sure. I think chambers are the right balance. I think orchestra, I think is sometimes you let yourself slip, right? Because you're playing with a section, there's a lot of people playing with you. If you make a little mistake, chances are no one's gonna notice in the audience unless they're musicians watching for you to mess up. Um, but same
Your
thing in
enemies again in
yeah,
the
your
orchestra.
enemies are there. Or like if you go
Sam, do
to
you have a lot of enemies?
no comment on that one.
Okay,
But if you or you
Giselle,
like if you're yeah, Giselle.
our lovely bassist.
We love Giselle.
Mhm.
I just came from her place. I'm taking care of her cat while she's gone.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
nice.
Um, but when you're doing a solo performance, right, and the same thing, there's a lot of pressure on you. I think chamber's a bit different. You have the benefits of like the comfort of playing with other people and like playing with a group versus solo. You're with a group, of course, but you're the soloist. But you also it's not like you can hide behind a section, right? And so I think chamber's really great in that. Like I enjoy playing with my friends. I enjoy the music that there is, and also I don't feel as pressured as I do in like a solo performance.
So, but I'm still curious where this pressure comes from
Hmm.
that you have. Is this true or false? You have to be excellent.
I think if I'm performing, then yeah, I have to be
How about just
excellent.
in your life?
Yeah, I think I strive for that for sure.
Okay.
I think part of it, at least for music, I think part of it comes from my old teacher, actually, my high school teacher.
Mhm.
I didn't realize this until like when I was in Carnegie Mellon, so all the way through my undergrad. But looking back, I mean, she was really hard on me because I think I was like the last student that she was going to send to like music school, and so she like really projected a lot onto me. I was doing 2 hour lessons to prepare. Super hard on me. I remember I sent her my pre-screening tapes, and she sent me back like a 3-page email saying how bad it was, and she was like, if it's not working, then I can send you to another teacher and she'll take care of you like through your auditions. And she was like, you're not going to end anywhere with these tapes. And I was like heartbroken over that. I passed pre-screening for literally everywhere except for one school, I think. And I was like, yeah, screw you. But when I went to Oberlin, I remember after my junior recital, like I was still in contact with her at that point. We would meet when I was back for breaks and just I would talk to her a little bit. And my teacher had me preparing for a competition. I think he was like, he wanted me to apply for it. And I told her that I was really excited. I played my recital. Not 10 minutes after I finished, she sent like a really, really long text with every mistake that she thought I made. And I like almost cried right there. I sent it to my teacher. I was like, is this valid at all? And he was like, no, I have zero patience for these kinds of people. And I blocked her.
Mhm.
I haven't talked to her since. But I think that voice kind of stayed with me for a while.
Mhm.
And I didn't realize it until like a few years ago. I was like, oh, this like background of being really harsh and critical is still there, which
I
I
mean,
think,
when did you start with her? How old were you?
7th grade, 8th grade.
Okay. And
Um,
probably you kind of trusted her before she started being all weird and critical.
Yeah, because I was studying with this like random music teacher before who like taught a bunch of instruments, like a generic music teacher, right? And then I did this festival, and she was the one who was running it, so I switched to her studios because I wanted to take violin a bit more seriously, and I really like that's where I fell in love with music, like playing chamber music, and so I studied with her. She got me into Oberlin, and yeah, it was like I was really appreciative for what she had done. She was like a second, like she was like my violin mom, right? But then later on, I realized like it was quite toxic, and it wasn't good for my mental health.
Why do you? I I've seen examples of people like that. It's either they're sort of projecting onto you this life that they wish that they could have had if they only persevered and worked harder, or I don't know what else the motivation would be, especially when the person is already passing the pre-screens and you're sort of just beating them into the ground. Like even I mean when you're a kid, but at any time when you're trying your best, y- that kind of that's not tough love anymore. It's not love.
I don't know where it came from. I think part of it is probably because she like, I mean, I don't think her career was super successful. Like she ran this festival, but now it's like gone under. She like does gig work and teaching. Um, maybe that was projection. I'm not really sure. But yeah, I think after a while I realized like this is really unhealthy for me. I don't need to talk to this person anymore. Despite like I'm still grateful for like what they've done for me, but I'm like no longer need that in my life.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like you have a really good attitude about it, but it is interesting to see how these voices kind of linger,
Yeah, yeah.
especially when you're younger too.
Yeah, because it was I mean, I was with her for 6 years,
Mhm.
it's a long time, like, every week seeing her for an hour. So yeah, I think it definitely had an impact on me as a kid, and I
Mhm.
I carried that mentality for a while before realizing it just wasn't good.
So you fell in love with playing chamber music and you decided to go pro and you have your undergrad and very many years being dedicated to this craft. You like solo playing, you like showing off, you like putting on a show. And then you come to where you are now. And is it this, would you say this past year or longer than that, that you start to sort of, would you say lose the love for it or what is the right phrase?
Yeah, it was last year that I started to, like, no longer enjoy music as I did before. Um, I'm not really sure. I can't say exactly what changed. There was definitely, like there were catalysts, like, not getting into festivals or not getting into, like, schools that I wanted to. It definitely made me demotivated, but I didn't like fall out of love with violin until last year. I kind of realized like this maybe isn't what I want to do. And so instead of doing a festival, I did this internship and I enjoyed it. It was
This is
fun
the
to
known,
see. Yeah.
is that how you say it?
No, biosciences.
Bioscience?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I went with them last year and I'm actually with them currently right now. But yeah, I worked with them last year. I really enjoyed it. And I was like, there's more to life than music for me. Part of it was also like doing the bubble tea shop at Oberlin. That was like such an
Which is a
enjoyable
crazy,
experience.
it's crazy that you did that.
Yeah. Honestly, that's the thing that I think back to, like, when I think of my undergrad, that's, like, the biggest thing for me, not anything music related. And so after realizing that, I was like, "Maybe I wanna pursue something different." So I after that year working with them, they, like, gave me an offer, or they had, like, a position in mind for me, but I said, I think I owe it to my younger self to take one more year for violin and see if I really wanna do it. So I did my recital, I did an audition, and like, halfway through the winter quarter, I was like, "Okay, I think I've made my decision. This isn't the right path for me."
Mhm,
And that's when I applied to, like, Medill and Kellogg.
mhm. Why do you owe it to your younger self for that one more year?
I think because my younger self was really set on being a musician, right? Like I was mentally accepting like not probably not making a lot of money, just like doing it for the love of the games, and I really did love playing violin. That's also one thing I realized that I always say I love playing violin, not I love music, and I think that is true. Like I something about playing violin, like the tactile feeling, like the satisfaction when it goes how you want it to, like the pride that you feel, it's like addictive. But I think maybe to be in the industry, you really need to love music as well, and I didn't quite have that passion as much. I love music, like, I love there's symphonies, pieces, I love listening to them, but the driving factor for me was always, just playing violin.
No,
Uh,
I get what you mean, and I think I'm probably in the same boat as you because yeah, there's people who love music because they have music, classical music in their house, and they could tell you every symphony and every composer, and the sonata comes on, and it's just like so meaningful and already intertwined with all these memories. And then there's people who start playing and figuring out how a machine works and learning patterns and just being the one playing. And for me, the kind of the world goes away when you have to focus so intently on something. And I love playing with piano. It's like this magic thing that
yeah,
comes
yeah,
together and it's like it sounds cool and you just feel really alive.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, I didn't start by loving classical music. I just like playing and I like performing and I like tinkering with this thing.
Yeah, that's a good word for it, tinkering, because that's why, like, I said in my undergrad, I did a lot of showpieces. That's part of the joy for me, like, figuring out how to do it. It was like a puzzle, you know?
Yeah.
It was, like, super fun to see your final product, like, "Oh, I can do all this cool stuff now."
Hmm. But I'm still curious when you said you kind of made up your mind that it wasn't the choice for you. Like what was it? Is it? I definitely know the feeling in the practice room of like I just don't want to be in this room anymore. um, or when you're really smart, like I think you're really smart, and sometimes, like I said, it's just everything that's on the page, and then you want to use your brain for something else. Like what tangibly in what you do every day, what was it that felt like a freedom and the right choice to free yourself from that?
The repetition, honestly, like,
3 hours,
yeah, I
8
mean,
extras.
I mean, that's not even that bad. Like in my undergrad, my freshman year, because I felt I was so behind everyone else, and I forced myself to do 6 hours a day.
Wow.
So I remember like Tuesdays, my schedule was really rough. So I wouldn't eat until like 10 p.m. because I just wanted to like get all my hours in before like midnight.
Uh-huh.
Um, but yeah, I think the repetition really got to me, and I was like, do I want to be grinding Don Juan for the next like X years of my life till I win a job?
And then
And
if you
sure,
win the
let's say
job, you
so.
can play Don Juan
Yeah, and I was
for
like,
your
"Do I
for
really
your
wanna
break.
play Don Juan? Not really," you know? I think I would get tired of playing Beethoven 5 like 100 times. And I've asked professional musicians, like people who have jobs about this before, and, like, they really love it, and that's great for them. But I think for me, like, it's not stimulating enough for me. Like, I like to do more stuff. Like, I keep going back to the boba business, and, like, there was so much to do for that. It was just
Mhm.
so fun,
Yeah, what
and
did you learn from that?
oh my god, oh, wow. So much. Like, I think just the experience of doing it was super valuable. Have I told you the story of it or
No.
no?
No,
So
I was very surprised to see us like, what? This is what I said, your double life.
so my last year at Oberlin, I took 2 entrepreneurship classes. They were newly offered there, just like the start of that year. And so the first one, we worked with like local small businesses. And so it was kind of like an intro to consulting where we would find out like what they needed to be done, and we would like work on that for them. We would have like weekly meetings with both like the owner of the business and our professor to like, make sure we were on track with deliverables. They would give us feedback, and that was great. The second one, it was kind of a more like generally entrepreneurship class, and our professor, Ted Evans, great guy. He's currently the president of the Segal Lifelong Learning Center in Case Western, where that's where he got his MBA. But he was at Oberlin teaching there, and he brought in this guy, Adrian Bota. He's the CEO and founder of Origin Milk, a company that focuses on making A2
Is it a
milk.
milk company?
Yeah, they make A2 milk
I'm
and
sorry, a what milk?
A2.
Excuse me?
If I remember, it's like it lasts a certain. It's supposed to be like safe to drink for lactose intolerant people, and
Okay.
like maybe healthier for you or something. But I mean, I don't know. It's milk, right? I don't know a ton about dairy, but just having him come in and talk to us about like what he does, and also like giving us problems that he was working on, or problems that he had in the past, and seeing how we approach that, I felt a lot more creative coming up with solutions that way. But our final project was to create just like a mock business, like create like an elevator pitch, basically, like a pitch an idea to some investors. And so I was working with 3 other friends, and we were like, "What if we did a bubble tea shop?" Because we love bubble tea. That's we all love it. Let's do that.
Mhm.
And so we took the project pretty seriously, and we started doing actual market research in the Oberlin community. And we were like, "Wait a minute. There's like legitimately a gap in the market for this." Because we had 2 restaurants that sold bubble tea. Both were overpriced, both were really bad. And then there's like the canned bubble tea that no one likes. So we were like, "What if we actually gave this a shot?" Um, so our professor ended up bringing in this woman, Danielle Strockman from the 1517 Fund. And she's like an angel investor, right? So you're a venture capitalist. So she obviously had a lot of the feedback, and she was also like, yeah, like if you have a good idea, like we will give you a grant for this. Um, and we had done our market research. We had done like industry research about bubble tea in general. We had like our cash flow projections all planned out. We get into the meeting, we bring out our charts, and she goes, "Where the hell is the bubble tea?" And we're like, "Oh, we didn't think of that part yet."
Oh my
And so
gosh.
she was like, "Okay, okay, okay. I love the enthusiasm. I love the work that you've done. Do a pop up. Sell some bubble tea, develop your recipe, figure that out." And so then that opened the different like realm
Well,
of
you guys had to
possibilities for
make it
me.
yourself, like
Yeah,
stirring in the bathtub.
yeah. Not in the bathtub, but
That's what you're
I
gonna tell us.
I remember like, I had so many meetings. I was meeting with like other bubble tea shop owners, and like asking them like how they did it. Like we had a friend of a friend who was owning their own shop, and so we talked to her a lot about this. I was meeting with like city council, and like just figuring out like food licenses, meeting with landlords, um meeting with like or talking to like where we were sourcing our ingredients, trying to figure all that out. And so our first pop up actually, we added another violinist actually to our group, and she was super enthusiastic about it, and we did the pop up together because 2 of our members had graduated early, so they were remote, and then or sorry, 3 of them, so it was just me and my friend on campus. um and we did our pop up. We like posted an ad for it in like our student newsletter, and We were like, okay, we're gonna be here from 12 to 3 until we sell out of our milk tea. And the day before, I spent the entire day prepping. So I went out, I bought the like the supplies that we like the materials that we needed. I had the stuff ordered from Amazon. I made all the boba myself. We did like days of recipe testing for this. We spent a solid like week and a half just trying new recipes every day, different ratios, different teas.
And you guys were testing them, or you had test subjects?
I mean, we tested them, but also like we had our friends
Mhm.
try them as well. And so the day before, I made like the whole thing. I made a giant batch of the boba. I made 6 gallons of tea, something like that.
Did you make the boba pearls?
No, oh, no, that's too
I
much.
don't know how. I don't even know how that happens.
But we were looking at like getting an automatic machine to make them, so we could make them ourselves. But just for the pop up, we were like, let's buy
Yeah.
them. And yeah, so we hosted our pop up. I brought the ice, the tea, the everything that we needed. I brought it over to our like little pop up stand. 11:45, some dude's passing by on his bike. He's like, "Oh, you got to the bubble tea shop, right?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Can I grab a cup now? Like, I have to go to a class, but I really wanted to stop by." Really, sure. So he poured him a cup. Some other people see it, so they come over as well. And it just piles on. We had a line of like 100 plus people. We sold out in 45 minutes. We were planning to be there for like 3 hours. So that was pretty incredible to see.
Wow.
We ran out of tea before we ran out of pearls. So we ended up selling the boba by the cup. Like we would do like a
Wow.
scoop or two in the cup. So instead of what we charged $5, we were like, this is like $2 for this. Sold out of all of that. We went back to the investor, Danielle, and she loved it. She like posted us on her Twitter. She was super happy with us and offered us a grant as well. And so we were looking to make this like really become a thing. We were talking to different investors. Like I met with the what was his title? Ultra high net worth manager at PNC
No
Bank.
way that was his title.
Yeah, so basically,
He
this is a friend
totally
of our
made up his
professor.
own title.
He only manages the net worth for people who have, I think, 20 million or more invested with the bank. And he was like, "Hey, your professor, we go way back. He tells me jump. I ask how high. That kind of vibe." And he was like, "You guys should consider a food truck. That'd be a good idea." But we really wanted to do brick and mortar. So we had a decent amount like pledged to us. I would say like 40K, and we were aiming for somewhere around like 90. But
Wow, that's way more than I thought.
I mean,
Because this is like a student thing, but it was a serious thing.
yeah, because we wanted to like get an actual shop going, right? But our professor was like, no, you need to factor in like 6 months of expenses at the minimum. And we were like, okay, that brings it from like 60 to 90 to like 200. And so we were like, this is, I don't know. At this point, like we were away for summer break. And my plan was to like find a location. I would like, live in Oberlin and set up the shop while I was there and then like commute back and forth from Carnegie Mellon to make sure it's all running well. But in the end, it was too much money to raise and too many logistics. So we scrapped the project. But it was like pretty great to do that for a year and just kind of, it like really made me interested in entrepreneurship and business in general. And that was like part of the reason why I went into this like BD marketing role at this internship. Because I was like, okay, I have some experience in this. Let me try this. My mom's a biologist as well, microbiologist. So I have like, I always grew up with science around me through her and through exposure from her. And so I was like, let me see business and science, how they meet. That's an interesting thing for me to think about.
Mhm.
So I got this internship and yeah, then I decided maybe I want to do this instead of violin.
Yeah. I mean,
Mm.
number one, it sounds like it was just very exciting, but probably not always positive. Like just all the logistics that you had to track and fires you had to put out.
Yeah.
And also, was the main thing how surprising it was that something could take off so quickly, and suddenly you're even throwing a number out there like 90K being a low number.
Yeah, that was kind of crazy. Just I think just the idea of this being a project, this being an actual business that we can do. Honestly, if I was there for another year, I think I could have made it happen. I would have done more pop-ups and I would have just started the shop there. Like we had a location in mind. We talked with the landlord already. Um, yeah, I think just seeing the project come to life was really rewarding.
Mhm.
Working with my team, of course, was great. There were issues with the team as well, but I was really the one taking charge of the project, and I put a lot of time into it. So I was the one like setting all the meetings, doing like the workload, the majority of the workload. Um, and yeah, it was super fun to do, and that
Yeah.
kind of like made me just think like, I want to do more of this.
Yeah, and you just mentioned I wanted to ask about the group project thing. Um, you were taking on a lot of the work, but I'm just wondering, is there skills that maybe you've developed as training as a musician that will transfer and help you be a better entrepreneur than someone without that? And obviously,
100%.
chamber comes to mind and like working with people.
Yeah.
So what am I? Yeah.
The biggest thing for chamber is if you're committed to your group and you're like a serious group, right? Then you want to know what every other person is doing at every moment in time, right? Like every measure, you want to know what's going on, who has the melody, who's the supporting role, who you're harmonizing with, what the rhythms are in each section, and that kind of like obsessive nature of wanting to know everything about like your team is like really really helpful when you're doing a group project, especially for entrepreneurship or starting your own business or anything. So like I mentioned, I was the one taking charge, and so we would have weekly meetings, and often I would take charge of like saying, "Oh, can you work on this? Can you do this? Like, give us an update on this." Checking in with the team throughout the week, asking for progress updates, and just like so there wasn't any point in time where I didn't know exactly what everyone was doing and what like what they were working on, right,
Okay.
and the progress they were making.
So it's like you took on more of a leadership role, not you were taking on more of the work.
It was a bit of both because I was like, until we recruited my other friend, I was the only one in person, and even after we did, I was a senior, so I had more free time. So there were like a lot of times where I would go meet with like city council by myself, or like with the landlords by myself, and check out spaces just like, or not by myself, but like with my professor, because he, I needed a guide there to show me what to do.
Yep.
But I did a lot of I took on the majority of the workload, I would say, at least more than like our other members. Not that I'm like regretted that or anything. It was really enjoyable for me.
Mhm.
But yeah.
But I mean, I'm just worried going forward because I think it's so great. I think we have a similar kind of personality of like wanting to take control of everything and feels it reduces anxiety to know you have control of every part. But yeah, in a group project, you end up doing too much. Just wondering as you go forward in your entrepreneurial ventures, is there something you learn from that so that you don't end up doing everybody's work?
Yeah, I think. mm, Well, I think for things like workload, especially if you're the one that's in charge, like if you have too much work, that's your fault for assigning it to yourself, I guess.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing that I learned was to be more clear and like upfront with my expectations. Like we all knew that I was the one like leading the project more or less, and they were all okay with that. But I think there were certain times where like I expected something to be done and like to a certain standard or a certain amount of work to be done, and it just didn't get there, and that caused some issues within the group. And then I would realize later that, oh, I didn't communicate this clearly enough. Like I could have communicated this better and maybe would have had a different outcome. That's probably the biggest lesson I took away from that. I don't think there was never a time where I was like, oh, this is too much work to do. Like I was still balancing that with school and I was okay. Um, it's just like it really helped with time management actually, learning how to manage my time well.
There's this military guy on YouTube. I don't know if you know him, Jocko Willink.
I do not.
His catchphrase is good, period. So, like, if anyone says that they're suffering or life is hard, blah, blah, he's like, good. And, like, that's the response. And he wakes up at 4 a.m. every day and he posts a picture of his watch showing that it's 4 a.m. because, like, you got to work out before the sun, blah, blah, blah. But his thing is extreme ownership. So, basically, anytime anything bad happens at all, you just say that it's your fault, basically.
Yeah.
And then that gives you control because you're blaming yourself, which means you can fix it. But you're kind of supposed to do it even when it's not your fault. So some people don't agree with that. But it sounds like you have kind of a similar philosophy. Like, I didn't communicate this well.
Mm.
It might be true, might not be true. Either way, that's the story that helps you fix the problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the very least is something that I could have done better, right? Even if it wasn't my fault. But that kind of mentality is actually one of the reasons why I've like decided to stop doing music. Um, when I was younger, I think it was really helpful for me to be like, this is my fault. Like I didn't get into this competition, this festival. That's my fault, right? Because then I doubled down, I work even harder.
It's
It was
just
really
not true.
motivating.
It's not true in
It's not
music, though.
true, but it's very hard because I kept on telling myself that, and it's hard for me to get that voice out of my head for violin at least. So um, I apply for like, I don't know, some insanely difficult festivals to get into, and I don't get in. Like my David McCarroll of Pittsburgh, he had me apply to Kneisel, and I was like, "There's no way I'm getting into Kneisel." Well, in Teos, I'm not getting into Teos. But then I get the rejection letter, and I'm like, "This is my fault." And I'm like to a degree, yes, but also I think there are certain festivals that are notorious for like needing a connection to get into,
Mm.
and I do think that is the case with a lot of festivals. Or even schools in general. If you have a connection with a teacher, that helps your chances a lot. But the mindset of, oh, this is always my fault ended up getting really negative for me. And I was like, at some point, I just like couldn't keep telling myself that anymore, but it was so ingrained in me. And it's
Yeah.
part of another reason why I was like taking a step back from violin and just trying to enjoy it more this year as opposed to like just gunning for results.
hmm So when you get that rejection email and you open it and then you say, "This is my fault," what's the second sentence or what's the thing implied by that? Does that make sense?
Time to work harder.
Okay, but
um,
it's not like, "This is my fault. I'm a bad person. This is my fault.
Oh,
I'm
like
stupid.
spiraling? Yeah. Oh, for
This is
sure.
my
For
fault. I
sure.
should quit music. Like what's the next logical thing that you say to yourself?
I think when I was younger, it was like, I didn't get this. I need to work harder. And
Okay.
then as I got older, it was like, well, I'm still not working hard enough. I must be super lazy and untalented. And then it kind of like, there are definitely moments where I've like spiraled in music. I think we've all been there, just
Oh
like
yeah.
losing like all hope and faith in being able to become a professional, you know?
You're like, what about that stupid concerto I
Yeah,
watched that other guy play and it wasn't
yeah,
even good and he
exactly.
has a job?
Or like, I mean, or like if you see people that you're like, oh, like I know I played better than them. How did they get in there, but I didn't? You know, the kind of like it's
Useless
yeah,
things to think
it's
about.
just yeah. I don't know. There's a lot about music that I think is not about your ability to play, but
Yeah.
for mindset like mentality, it definitely like got to a point. I would say my um there was a bad time in my junior year where like my mindset was really really bad, and then also felt like my last year at Carnegie Mellon like just like a year ago where my mindset was like pretty bad as well. And then I kind of realized like it was another factor for me deciding to like leave music.
hmm Was when you say your mindset was bad, it was in that same kind of way, the rejection spiral, or was
Yeah,
it
like
something different?
I mean, it's a mix of spiraling, but then also just being like, I'm never gonna have a career in music. Like, this is gonna be like, I'm wasting my time. That was a big thing for me is like feeling like I was wasting my time on my professor's time.
Mm.
Like if I ever was told things more than once in more than one lesson, like back to back lessons, he's telling me the same thing, I'd be like, I just wasted like a week. Which is not true. Like I think any work that you do is always money in the bank, right? It's like it'll help you later on. It might not show right away, but that was kind of my mindset. Like, oh, I just wasted a week of time.
Well, in some skills you're going to get really quickly, and some skills you're going to work on for 10, 20, 30 years.
Yeah, but I guess part of me was like, that's not acceptable. I was like,
Yeah.
I need to just get it right away.
Yeah. And then, so this past year, was it, you mentioned you enjoyed it more because you lifted some of that pressure, or what did you say exactly? Like, you try one more year, and then if not, I'm going to do something
Yeah,
else. So enjoy it. So try really hard. So, like, what was the instruction you gave yourself?
it was a bit of both. It was I wanted to not put so much pressure on myself, but I still wanted to strive for goals. So like taking that audition or like doing challenging pieces in chamber and like pushing myself to learn like hard concertos or like sooner and perform more in class and everything. Um, I definitely felt less pressure like overall. I think there were still moments of time where I really pressured myself into performing well. And like just obviously because it's hard to get rid of that voice completely, right? So just pushing myself really hard. Um, but talking to a lot of my peers here, one thing that I've heard multiple times was, "Wow, Bean is really competitive," and I just noticed that I didn't really feel that.
I don't really feel that.
Like, but I didn't know it. Like, I mean, maybe I don't know if it's like different for strings or winds, like the kind of like vibe, but I feel like violins and cellos especially were like, oh, it's so competitive here. With cello, I guess I can see with Hans' studio, but I never felt that way, and I think maybe part of the reason is because like a lot of my friends know that I'm not like I'm considering leaving music, and so maybe maybe because they know that they don't feel that you need to be as competitive, or me, I just maybe myself don't notice it because I'm not being competitive with other people. Um, but that was really helpful in terms of not feeling so pressured. I think if I was gunning for like a competition or something, it'd be a different story, right?
hmm
I'd feel that pressure a lot more. But the mindset that I had this year was a lot healthier.
hmm Hmm. I wonder if by competitive, they just mean everyone's good. Like it's competitive. Because
Maybe.
I don't feel any sort of toxic, like it's you or me. We're going to fight it out in the flute
Yeah.
studio or elsewhere.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think maybe certain studios have this more than others.
One thing I was mentioning off camera is I think it's really cool that you are giving yourself permission to change and do something completely different. Because a lot of the time, when you put effort into anything, you feel like you've already invested so much, you have to keep going. Or maybe you feel a guilt that, like, so many people have invested in me, and like my parents and my teachers and all this, and you sort of owe it to other people. Versus in reality, that makes us sound like we're super important and no one else is thinking about you that much, and our life is hopefully
Hmm.
100 years long, maybe longer with AI and medicine and all that. And then if you spend 2 extra years on something because you think you should, and you just burn yourself out at the end of that versus you could have started going in another direction, I think I don't wanna tell people to give up and do something else, but if you know in your heart and you're kind of lying to yourself, not that you were, but I mean, people definitely get in this rut. Like, it's okay to do something else and to kind of do it for yourself because you're the one who has to live your life every day, and if you feel like you're locked in the practice room, maybe you should try something else and you can come back to it. You
Yeah.
know, like life is longer than we think.
Yeah. Um, yeah, that's a great take on it. The idea of like sunk cost fallacy, like I've
Yeah.
invested this much into it, I should keep on going. Um, that's something that I struggled with before, but I think I got out of that mindset earlier on, and that's kind of how I view violin as well. So when I realized that I had other passions outside of music, and not just business, right? But I mean, I know we talked about this before. I love food. I love cooking.
I
I
was
love
gonna say you
trying
should open a
restaurants.
restaurant.
No, the overhead costs are too insane. The margins are too small. The business side
Oh
is
my
not
god.
good.
A business major would say that.
Yeah, but I was like, if I want to hang out with my friends and I want to like try different restaurants with people, like none of my friends from back home, for example, none of them are in music. It's only me, right? Oh, sorry, one of them is, but not like a performer, not like in an orchestra. Um, and I was like, I'm hoping to be moving to a city with them as well. So that would require me to get the job, win an orchestra job in that city. And then I'm gonna be busy like Fridays, like Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights, like when they're probably gonna be hanging out. And if I want to, try places with them, do different things with them, travel, it's like I'm kind of limiting myself to only musicians in that because the people go the same schedule as me. Um, and that was like one reason why I was like, wanting to do other things, just a lot of different passions and things outside of music that I want to do. But
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are just I only want to do music. It's my whole life, and that's great for them. They have that dedication. I think for me, that's not it.
I think yeah, I think it's really smart to think of the practical side of the job. I mean, at the end of the day, it is a job. And like you said, think about the days of the week you want to work. Think about the place you want to live, the types of restaurants you want to be able to afford to go to, the people you want to have around you. But when you get caught up in my identity is a musician,
Yeah.
and like you said, your friends, you were the only musician. That probably was a lot of pressure to be like, I am the musician guy. That's how they see me. That's my label, and I better live up to it too. So it's like even harder to let it go. Do you have that? Like, now your identity is changing.
I mean, I went back home for Thanksgiving break last year, and I was going out to a bar with some friends in my hometown. I ran into like three people from my high school that were also back, and what this one girl that I knew, she was like, "Oh my God, Sam! Like, how are you? How's music? Like, you're still doing violin and everything, right? Like, that was what they remembered about me. A lot of them were just like, "Oh, you're the musician. You went into violin."
Yeah, that's like all of you.
Yeah, and I was just like, "Oh yeah, it's going well. I'm still doing it." Um,
Like, it's going well, never doing it again, never touch that thing.
yeah. But yeah, that idea of like, oh, my own identity as a musician, like I did realize that there's a lot more to me outside of music. Being a musician is not my only identity, and I felt like there was enough important things and things that I cared about outside of music for me to warrant like thinking about doing something different.
hmm How do you know? I don't think this is the case, but how do you know right now that it's not just like a giant cloud of burnout that's making you quit? And then if you would give it some time, it would like clear away and and the love would still be there.
I think because I still pick up my violin occasionally, right? I still practice and I still enjoy it. I still really enjoy doing it. So it's not like every time I
Probably
pick up
more
my
now
violin.
that the pressure is gone.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not like I pick up my violin now and I'm like, oh, I gotta do my scales. I gotta do my Don Juan again. Oh my God.
You don't have to play Don Juan anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Stop.
It feels so good. But I think because I'm still enjoying it when I do it, and I still like to listen to classical music, and I still like to hang out with my musician friends and talk to them about music, I'm like, I don't think it's burnout. I think it's just like I found a different calling that I want to do instead. Or maybe not even a calling is the right word, but I found a different path that I think would like better suit my interest in life.
hmm
Yeah.
It's just I'm distracted because it sounds like a really bad would you rather question. It's like would you get to press the button and you're really good at the violin, but you can only play Don Juan. Like that's it. You can't play anything else.
I think I would quit violin if that was the
Oh
case.
yeah, I know you would. Some people like Don Juan.
Some people love Don Juan.
Yeah.
And
I think it's okay.
that's an unexpected decision, but that's what that they make.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about what's next for you. I mean, how do you feel? It seems like you're excited.
I am. So, yeah, I told you recently I got into both Kellogg and Medill for master's programs there. For Medill, it was the Integrated Marketing Communications program, and for Kellogg, it's the Master's in Management.
Okay.
So I was, pretty heavily debating which one to go to, but I think the clear answer is to go to Kellogg. Don't get me wrong, Medill is an amazing school, and I think we're number one in the country for journalism and marketing. But I really enjoy the marketing job that I have right now, but also I think I have a lot of interest in I wanted the finance world. I love finance. Or not economics as much, more finance, or like doing consulting, doing stuff related to the markets I really enjoy. And so I think Kellogg will offer me a lot more opportunities in that sense. The MIM program is also really good because they offer, if you're like one of the top performers, you get automatic entrance into their MBA program. So that's something I'll be gunning for sure. I was initially considering applying for them and like the MBA until I saw that you needed minimum like 2 or 3 years of working experience. And I was like, I don't have that. But the MIM is like designed for people with like minimal working experience or just out of undergrad. So the possibility of like going into an MBA as well is really exciting to me. And I think also just going back to like that, passion that I had when I was doing the bubble tea shop, getting to go back to like a world that's, that kind of world is really exciting to me. And like I said, when I think back to Oberlin, that's the first thing that comes to mind, like that project that I did. And so I think I'm really excited to kind of do that again, to go back to that world.
Yeah, it feels like you're returning to a part of yourself that you just haven't had time for.
Yeah, yeah.
And you've been kind of covering up with other things, but now you can just go 100% with that and see where it leads.
Yeah, because after I graduated at Oberlin, like I was legitimately considering taking a year off to pursue this boba business and to try to make it work. But I just felt it just didn't feel like responsible with both time and money, because it's a big commitment to make. And obviously, that's not my ultimate goal to like, run a bubble tea shop in Oberlin, Ohio. New York, maybe, but not Oberlin, Ohio.
New York is so hard though.
Yeah.
Why New York?
Oh, just like I love Chicago.
Actually, that would be great for trying restaurants.
Yeah.
If you live there.
Yeah.
Do you have an ultimate goal?
For what I want to do?
Yeah, like you want to own a not a boba tea shop, but is there some picture in your mind?
Well, honestly, like if I do well enough for myself, I would love to actually make the boba tea shop happen in Oberlin. If the market's still good, if there's still like a space in the market.
So you would like to own a boba
I would like
tea
to,
shop?
but I would like that to not be my
Oberlin,
main
Ohio.
thing. Like more like a side project. Then I can hire students to like run it and stuff like that. Ultimate goal, that's a good question. I don't think so. I would say outside of music, like my other big passion that I've been really into is like the stock market, trading and investing. I think I put on my resume, I taught like a course there at Oberlin for trading and investing before. But I took like a kind of a long hiatus from it and I got back into it like last year. I passed like the first round for a prop firm, which I was really proud about. And I did a lot of like statistical analysis, trying to find patterns that like have high probabilities of happening and using those as like my templates for trades. And so if like I was considering before like what I want to go into like quant or like prop trading or something, that requires a big math background, which I do not have, and would require like a very intense degree to get.
You just stay in school forever.
Yeah, just
get all the degrees.
So do like what musicians do,
Yeah.
I'll learn my DMA, my AD.
Yeah, well, musicians were just hiding because we don't want to go in the real world.
Yeah.
You would actually be learning stuff.
Maybe, yeah, I've been learning some stuff, but I don't know. I think something in the markets I would really enjoy, but it's very open-ended right now. That's why I chose Kellogg, because I think there's a lot of different options I can choose from there.
Yeah, I don't think you need to have it all figured out right now. I think in a lot of things you just take one step forward and then new paths are revealed to you. Like this bioscience, what's it called?
No, biosciences.
Biosciences. You probably had no idea that existed before you decided to take this opportunity and then see what happens next.
Yeah, and that opened a lot of doors for me.
Yeah, I mean, I can envision a version of you, let's say 10 years, you could just like put all these pieces together. And maybe there's some way you can put music in it too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I saw you did some violin teaching. Like maybe you could have that in. I don't know did you like that teaching? Not so much?
I was teaching
His
younger
face.
kids, which was kind of tough.
Yeah, that's tough.
It can be a bit challenging sometimes. Honestly, when I was younger, like in my like early undergrad, I was thinking about like what would be really cool to do with my life, right? Like what would I do if I had like $1 billion? First thing, kind of a joke answer, I would host a violin competition with like a $10 million prize, right? Invite all of the most famous soloists, but there's a catch, right? It's gonna be all with accompaniment, but it's gonna be held in the basement with like this upright piano and like a 480p live stream, and I'm the only judge. And I'm totally biased, right? I don't know, just like
you show up there and it just looks like the sketchiest thing ever.
But hey, $10 million prize, I think people will show up for that. Or to like create a competing music school in Houston, Texas called Noodles instead of Rice. That was also a joke answer.
Oh my God.
But when I was like being serious, I was like, I would love to own my own festival, like run a music festival. I think like that's one thing about my old teacher that I did like really like admire about her, like running her own festival is really cool. I also thought it'd be great to sponsor students, like students who are less fortunate, increase classical music outreach, create programs to help like people, because let's face it, music takes a lot of money to get into. To make it more accessible for others, for people who want to learn, students who are really talented but don't have the means for, and that's violin, to create like an instrument bank that can loan out to students. be more philanthropic. And I kind of feel that if I, pursue a job that maybe is like more lucrative than music, I can maybe have a bigger impact on the music world than I would if I was actually in it, like a
Mhm.
performer. So yeah, those are like some of my goals that I was thinking of before.
I just feel like the world is your oyster.
Yeah,
I mean, and what a relief. Is it a relief to think now you're in paths that are more likely to be able to make money and have a comfortable,
for
because
sure.
music
Yeah,
is scary. Like you jump off a ledge, and if you're lucky, you have a family who supports you, so it's not so scary. But the thought of, man, maybe I'm never going to be able to really pay for myself and for others. And you said like being philanthropic, you're going to have so much more if you
yeah.
follow this.
Hopefully, hopefully.
I would bet.
But yeah, it's definitely a relief because I was always concerned about money,
Well,
like
people
being a
make jokes
musician.
about it in music school. It's like, haha, we're never going to win an audition and we're going to be homeless on the street with a tip jar.
Yeah, but like what if that happens? It's so scary to
Yeah,
think for that actually happening.
it's
So
almost not funny.
yeah. So going into a field where I'm more secure about my future, like getting a job and supporting myself and a family if I choose to, that's definitely a relief to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like you are getting a clearer picture of what success looks like for you. And it's not just based on a label that you sort of trapped yourself in as a young person,
Yeah.
which I think we're sort of pushed to do that when you're in high school. They're like, apply for college, decide what you're going to do. You have to declare your major first. Apparently, that didn't used to be a thing, but now it's like you're deciding for the rest of your life if you're going to be a doctor or whatever. That's a big decision to ask a high schooler to make.
Yeah, we're kids. We're
Yeah,
18.
and nobody ever says like, imagine what you want your Tuesday to look like. Like that's never what we're thinking about. We're thinking about what we want to tell our friends that we do, what we want our identity and our ego and our label to be, and like this sort of mystical idea of what a doctor does or a musician. It's just not real. And I think it's much more realistic to go through knowing that you're going to change your mind and kind of giving yourself that permission up front versus a lot of us have to come to that and then maybe feel bad about it and kind of work through it.
Yeah. I think like, when I was a kid, I was so sure I wanted to do music, right? I was so committed to it. I was like, no matter what happens, I'm sticking with this. But then reality hits you and it's a different story altogether. I think just over the years, getting more experience, seeing my friends who aren't in music, what they're doing, what they're up to, I was like, I'm missing out on stuff. There's stuff I'm missing out on. I get a lot of being in music school. I really enjoy it, but there's a lot of stuff I'm missing out on, and I feel a bit of like FOMO on that for sure. Um, and yeah, I think just seeing all these different avenues. 'Cause I do think a lot of sometimes you get tunnel vision into music and you see what other musicians are doing, but not you. And you're like, okay, if I work really hard, I can win this competition. I can win this job, right? But then you see, like, I don't think people often look at like their friends who do stuff outside of music, or it's like they don't really think of that comparison. And I look at them and I'm like, you know, I would love to like take a trip to Korea with my friends, right? But I can't go like 3 weeks without touching my violin, right?
Yeah.
And I don't wanna bring that with me, like, overseas to Korea or something. But, like, I went back to China recently this year to visit family, and I brought my violin, like, my old violin, I practiced, like, once
Play
or
Don Juan.
twice. But I did a little Don Juan, yeah, because I was, like, preparing for an audition.
I'll have to play
But
Don Juan.
but, kind of like that feeling of not having to be so worried about keeping my chops up was really free. It was
Yeah.
really nice. I was able to enjoy my vacation more.
Yeah. There's lots of parts of life that you can't measure your happiness and
Yeah.
things that you can't do later on. We have our health and our youth and for traveling and all that.
Yeah.
Um, it sounds like you have a lot of things figured out, but I'm just wondering, are there things you're still trying to figure out right now? Are there like big questions?
I mean, still ultimately, like, what kind of career do I want to go into, right? I have a few options, but I'm not sure yet. That was actually something I was nervous about in my interview. They asked like, what does your long-term and short-term plan look like? And I was like, okay, short-term, I have an answer. I want to get into school. I want to get a degree.
Short term, I want to pass
Find
this
some,
interview.
yeah, pass this interview. But I mentioned like, long-term, to be honest, I don't know. Because I'm switching to a completely different field, which I have some experience in, but not a ton. It's scary. I don't know what I want to do long term yet. Um, and I remember at the end of the interview, they asked me like, "Do you have any questions for us?" And I was like, "Yeah." Well, sorry, for me, there's only one person, but I asked. The program's only 10 months long. I'm nervous about like not making the most of my time there. Like, what have you seen in students that like you think they can do better in terms of like getting the most out of the program, both what they get and what they can contribute? And she was like, yeah, starting off with like a really clear idea of like what you want to do is really good because as soon as you get here, it's like recruiting season. And I was like, I just told you I don't have that. Oh no. I was like, they're
Time
gonna
for the
reject me
bubble
for
tea
that.
shop idea to come out.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
so I followed up. I was like, oh, I talked to like my friends and family that are in like consulting and finance, and I have a better idea of what I want to do. And I don't know if
And
that
you sent
factored
an email
into it.
after the interview?
Yeah, because
Yeah, good for you.
I also like I did the Do you know Stephen Altop?
No,
He's like the BME conductor here, and he
I
does a lot of
haven't
the
been
different
in that
ensembles.
yet, but I've
But
heard of him, yeah.
so I played like the baccalaureate concert with him, and then also this the Kellogg gig. And so the Kellogg gig was the day after my interview with Kellogg. So I emailed them, I was like, hey, I wanted to update with this like event that I did, and also I've been thinking long term about my future, what I want to
See,
do. I
that's
have an idea.
strategic. I like that. I do that kind of stuff that's like just a little bit crazy and out there, but like, what's the worst thing that's gonna
Yeah,
happen?
like if they've made up their mind already, then it's not going to change things.
Yeah.
I remember my old teacher told me that he was deciding between two students for a studio once, and one of them was like a better player, but he still like, wasn't sure which one he wanted to take. And then the other one emailed him and was like, "I know I'm not the best player yet, but I will work the hardest that you've ever seen." And until he took that kid, and I was like that's a perfect example of like one email. What's the harm? It can't hurt you, right?
Yeah.
It's not gonna be against you in any way. So
Plus, there's a lot to a person nowadays who's willing to cold call people. Even just, you notice when you get in an elevator, everyone just looks at their phone.
yeah,
And like, my family always just says some dumb joke when they get in an elevator. And I'm trying to pass on that tradition. Like,
that's
just, it's a chance to practice your small talk. But people do look at me like I'm an alien.
I think also maybe in the US for sure. I feel like in China sometimes I've had experiences just talk with people in
Oh,
the
really?
elevator. Yeah. But the US for sure is like you get in, down on your phone immediately.
Just don't talk to me.
Unless you're a singer in Beat It and you just belt it out in the middle of
This
the
came up
elevator.
on another podcast episode. Yeah. Walking from one room to the other, they were full on singing. And everyone around them just like making eye contact, like, oh my God, singers.
Singers.
I need to talk to a singer so they can defend their honor.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you chose Kellogg. So you'll be around, it's a 10 months, so like 1 year.
Yeah. So I'll be graduating at the same time as you
Okay.
and all of our other friends
And
that
then
are
maybe you'll have more school.
potentially, yeah. I think
Perhaps.
if I get into like the MBA program, I'll probably do that because it's just like it's a great way to secure my future. You know, I'm willing to spend one more year or yeah, it's a 1 year program actually. Like they have a 1 year MBA. So if I do that, I'm willing to do one more year to ensure my future. Don't know what the future holds for me yet, but it's an open path. I think it's kind of exciting to have this like all these different paths ahead of me as opposed to orchestra, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, like so narrow. And then even when you win the job, then it's not like your life is over. You have to, a lot of people, professionals I've talked to, they win the job and then there's even more pressure because now people expect things from them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great that you have all these paths open to you. I remember one other question I wanted to ask you,
Yeah.
which was how, when you make decisions, would you say it's more of a kind of emotional gut feeling type of thing, or is it a logical something both, or you've done both and one leads you wrong? Like, what would you say?
It depends on the decision. I think like when I was deciding between schools, for example, like the decision was mostly logical. Like Kellogg will offer me more. Um, I think in general, I do trust my gut. But I'm also a cautious person, so I will like, especially if it's an important decision, then I'll do my due diligence. I'll think about it. I'll like do my research and find out which option is best for me. For smaller things, like as a random example, I've been playing a lot of poker with my friends. If my friends like shouting all in, and I'm like, do I want to call? I'm like, I might be good here. I just call. But like that's like not an important decision, right? It's like that's more just a gut instinct. So I think the more important a decision is for me, then the more like I will try to ignore my feelings and just focus purely on like what is the best choice for me to make.
Mm-hmm. Do you do sports gambling?
No, you know who does though? Eli Zelman.
Oh, okay.
A lot of sports gambling.
Oh.
When you get him on this podcast, definitely talk to him about
I
that.
will. Is it like, but if he's good at it, then it's not a problem. I'm gonna win next time, believe me.
Sure.
Well, everybody's got to have something.
Exactly.
Sam, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. That was so fun. I'm glad to be one of the guests on this new amazing podcast by our wonderful host, Karina.
It's called The Practice Room.
The Practice Room. Everyone go check it out.
Sam
Share with a
just in.
friend.
Yes, and good luck.
Thank you.
You don't need it. Thank you for watching The Practice Room. Please remember to like, subscribe, and comment. Also, contact me on Instagram or my website if you would like to be a guest or would like to suggest a guest. Links in the description. Thank you.